Okay, this is Terrence Ross. I'm starting this podcast about nuclear war, especially articles and books about nuclear war that I read. And, you know, there's this book out now by Anne Jacobsen. I thought I'd start with this book review. It's called Nuclear War Scenario. And it's it really was kind of disturbing to me, even though I consider myself a lay expert on the nuclear era. I've read probably every significant book and on the subject and most of the articles. Um, Studied the Holocaust and genocide in college, and pretty much live with a full sense of expectation that at any moment there could be a nuclear war, which is rough, but I do it for a reason. It inspires me in a way to think of ways of covering the nuclear era, which is only done by the military industrial complex. Um, for instance, one of the things I do every day is I read Real Clear Politics, the defense section. So there's always articles in there, um, usually at least one about some aspect of nuclear policy, some new warhead, some micro nuke, something about the submarine fleet, modernization of ICBMs, potential interceptor missiles, beamed weapons, which are like kind of leftover. They are being developed, but I mean, that kind of is what Reagan was thinking with Star Wars, and those things are becoming more and more real. But anyway, I read all of those defense articles. And then the ones, well, I would say all of those articles, for the most part, are about weapons, and they just seem like press releases that have been sent out by these various companies like Raytheon or GE or anybody who makes weapons. Singer Sewing Machine Company makes weapons, I'm pretty sure. They make black boxes, um, which is some, no one knows exactly what it does, but it's some kind of electronic component that goes into, say, a strategic missile carrying submarine. But so this book, let me think, where was I going with that? So I read all those articles there, like press releases. So I think there should be a podcast where somebody interprets these articles or interprets these books, like in this case, this book by Anne Jacobsen. Will give this background information that I had just read, Rise and Fall, which is a really good new book or newer book about 9/11, and it was very intense and more terrifying than even I thought it was. I've read all the books on 9/11 for the most part, and actually have worked in WTC, had worked in there, and was up on the 79th floor. I remember the building swaying. I remember like the odd way you look out the window, you couldn't really see the ground. All you could see is the other building where I was sitting. And I remember being really scared in those elevators. They were terrifying. And sure enough, people got stuck in those elevators on 9/11. A lot of them. If you really want to read something even scarier than Rise and Fall, look up an article on what happened to the people in the elevators in the WTC when those planes hit, and in both buildings too, because a lot of people stayed up in the second building that was hit and were trying to get down when the second plane hit. I know if that had happened, if I saw that building next to me hit, I would be on my way down right away. I'd probably be on the stairs. But anyway, God bless those people. So I just wanted to make a quick review of Anne Jacobsen's book. It's very detailed. If you obviously talk to a lot of people, generals, personnel who have worked with nuclear weapons, ICBMs, warheads, policy people, people in the Pentagon, experts and scientists. I mean, she did a lot of work, and it's a very good book, I'd say. Um, and no spoilers, but it basically starts with a so-called bolt out of the blue attack from DPRK, which is North Korea, upon the Pentagon or Washington. The whole area is completely destroyed. I think it's like a 700 megaton warhead that hits, and it goes into like the damage, the different blast zones, the thermal energy, pulse, the flash. It's all kind of in reverse. It comes first. There's the flash, and no, first there's the flash, then there's the fireball, then the thermal energy, I would say, and then the blast, and then the radiation. But she covers it all in pretty fine detail. I would say probably an even better description could be found in Jonathan Schell's classic book, The Fate of the Earth. The first chapter is called The Republic of Insects and Grass, and it gives like a second by second account of a 1 megaton nuclear explosion over New York City. But anyway, Anne Jacobsen's book, so it starts with that up bolt out of the blue attack, which means nothing leads up to it. And in case you're new to this subject, there's really no defense against an ICBM fired from another country, at least as far as I know. Um, the DPRK, they have, I think, pretty sure they have thermonuclear weapons and ICBMs to carry them. And in the book, the warhead hits, and then there's a period of consideration. The president is missing and unaccounted for, and in the center, the security center, the bunker where they decide these things, the people next to line come together and they come up with an attack plan and they execute it. And it involves firing ICBMs and I think SLBMs. I think it starts with ICBMs. It involves firing ICBMs at DPRK. But there's only one problem is that this is kind of the devious, almost evil aspect of Anne Jacobsen's book is that if they're going to fire ICBMs at DPRK, I guess the only way to do it in a timely fashion, because if you didn't have strategic submarines um, in the water, like in that area or by Korea, so you had to use your missile silos, like you wanted to do it fast. If you fired it from an ICBM that's in the ground here in the United States, a lot of them are in Montana, different places like that. So if you fire that, it'll get there you get to DPRK in about 20, 30 minutes, I believe. The intercontinental ballistic missile, and it goes up into space where there's like virtually no limit on the speed. Talk about hypersonic. But anyway, those missiles have to go over Russia. And I just don't actually believe that could possibly be. I mean, I guess it could happen, but it just seems crazy that anyone would, after a single hit on Washington, which is really, really bad. It's going to be like the worst thing that ever happened. But would you fire missiles back over Russia? That's the only way they can travel is to go over Russia to get to the DPRK or North Korea. And they decide to do it, and it leads to a monumental, like, world-ending nuclear war because Russia thinks they're under attack and they decide to respond before the missiles hit, and then that causes a response from us, and it's very upsetting because she's a very good writer. And do I recommend reading it? Yeah, I guess. It's upsetting, and the truth is, I'm not really sure that it's helpful to read a book like that. I'm not sure that it does anything more than further cow people and frighten them and give them a bunch of existential angst. I'm just not sure. I don't know. I would ultimately say go ahead and read it if you're of the ilk. I mean, I got over it, and it's also on Audible, and it's Anne Jacobsen who's reading it herself. So it's very sincere, I think, on her part. But there's also this fascination. She seems to have a fascination with the topic, which I fully understand. There's something hypnotizing about this idea of the sufficiently eschatological nuclear weapons corpus or the body of nuclear weapons. Like if they all go off at once, there's something about that that's really hypnotizing. And she's kind of under the power of it. I don't know. I'm not saying she's possessed, but it is interesting that she's doing a really, really effective media campaign. She's all over YouTube doing interviews with like literally all the big podcasters. I don't think she's been on Joe Rogan yet because she's recently been on there or fairly recently and was interviewed by him. She wrote a really well-known book about what is it, Area 57, and she'd probably get into that book. But so then she went on. I think this was her next book, the nuclear war book, a scenario, and I would say, except for the fact about I never really thought about us attacking North Korea, but if we did, I think it would be with bombers or with SLBMs, which is submarine launched ballistic missiles, which means there's probably one in the water, um, close enough to North Korea to respond to any kind of attack. There's probably bombers that have access to different types of nuclear weapons. I would I would guess in Japan and South Korea, and they just would not fire missiles over Russia. I just don't think they would do that. In fact, I got to get into that and do some research on that because it seems a little for really, really dangerous behavior. When you have a chance of having a limited nuclear war, got all the tools to do it. We got strategic missile carrying submarines. We got naval vessels with nuclear powered Tomahawk. I mean, nuclear tipped Tomahawk cruise missiles. We got, all this other gear. Why would you fire ICBMs over Russia? What's like a worst case scenario? And I guess it could happen, but it's really stupid. Stupid. And I guess that feeling that it's a stupid book ultimately because of that her choice to make it that particular nuclear war scenario. But maybe I'm stupid. But I just wanted to respond to that book initially, promote it a little bit. You might do to just watch one of her interviews. It's almost like hearing the book because she has this voice. This I guess people find it sexy because I noticed in the comments that in the comments to all the podcasts that she does, people go, that voice. I keep referring to her voice. To me, I find it, um, I don't know, slightly monotonous. I feel like there's a little bit of a con. Like I feel like she's putting me on. Um, she's really selling this book, but I don't mean to be critical of Anne Jacobsen. These are just feelings. It's a deep topic, like final ultimate nuclear war. It's deep. It is possible, and I would even say it is probable. Um, 75 years of management, if that's what it is, of nuclear weapons without any further nuclear explosions and interstate action after Hiroshima and Nagasaki does give us the feeling that we know how to handle this thing. But I have determined independently and through talking to experts and talking to ChatGPT that in fact the chances of a nuclear war go up every year. That's just it because it's a highly complex system. Not even just complexity here in the United States, but we got the multiple states that have their own systems that are top secret, and one really good book to read, I'll just mention this book. I'll probably end up reviewing it, but is uh, Eric Schlosser's book, Command and Control, because he goes into accident theory. And when I heard about accident theory, it was kind of the scientific confirmation of what I always felt, which is that the potential for accidents is very great with the system, and inevitable over the course of a long haul. And that's what accident theory addresses and tries to prove mathematically. And there's a nice chapter, I think, on accident theory and command and control, which starts with the history of, I think it's a Thor or Titan missile explosion in the silo. I think it was in Alabama, and the warhead like blows off, like lands at a field pretty far away. And he covers a lot of other accidents like that, especially I think some that happened during the Cuban Missile Crisis, where we were subjecting our system at SAC system, Strategic Air Command, and all the other systems to like 3 times as much stress and work as we normally would put them under. So we had people flying 24/7. And then people got tired and they started making mistakes. And there was one of these B-52 bombers that was going out with, I believe it was 5 thermonuclear warheads, and it crashed as it was taking off. And 4 of the warheads, I think the safety systems worked perfectly, but the other the fifth one almost exploded. And I think it was either a 2 megaton bomb or a 20 megaton bomb. And it was in Alabama, I believe. And the reason it almost exploded is someone forgot to hit a switch. And that's all just from memory. But so this is my nuclear war podcast. It's it's where I want to cover literature and articles written about the nuclear era, as well as talking about some of the ideas that I've come up with, like card trick, which is my little performance that I plan to make international. I call it anti-nuclear, ANTE nuclear, because it uses regular playing cards, and it's kind of an attempt to coordinate our ability to dream, to find answers in dreams, into finding answers to the problem of nuclear weapons. So it'd be kind of like setting up a kind of group shamanism, but that's just an off the cuff description. Um, and my websites I'm getting up. One of them is www.cardtrick.com, and another one is cardtrick.net, and it's spelled card trick with a K at the beginning and a K at the end, KARDTRICK.net. They're just up. I'm just putting them up. I'm not very good webmaster, but there is some stuff up there. And I have a buy me a coffee site. Oh, this is going to be on that site. So I don't know if I'm just going to post this or if I'm going to try and dress it up a little bit with shortwave radio signals and weird sounds like that I associate with the nuclear era. Like, this is all, a lot of this technology is really old. Like in Command and Control, Peter Schlosser describes, I believe this is where I read about it. He describes like what the inside of a ICBM capsule where the commanders sit, the missile commanders sit in this like capsule somewhere near the ICBM, and they control flight of missiles. But it's like the technology they have to live with is from 40 years ago. It's just not up to date, and it's depressing. It's like these guys are sitting underground waiting for something which they probably believe is never going to happen, but they're ready, right? In fact, maybe something could be garnered by studying their mindset. I'll have to think about that. And if you want to email me, my email is Terrence, Terrence 654 @gmail.com. That's just my regular email. And yeah, that's podcast number one, and it was on Anne Jacobsen's new book, Nuclear War Scenario. Thanks for listening. Bye.